Welcome back to None of Your Beeswax Apiary. Today we're going to show you how we make our candy boards to put on for the winter time. We usually put these on after Thanksgiving, but we got to make them ahead of time because they got to have time for the sugar to dry and harden. And since we've got to make so many, we got to get started now so we have time to get them all dry and can get them put on there at the beginning of December, sometime in that time frame there. So what we do is we've got a homemade frame for the candy board here. This is a 1x4 that I have cut just a little bit of a shim. That's about a ½ inch, ¼ inch shim, 3/8 inch shim on the bottom here. So I sliced that off and then I stapled ½ inch hardware cloth to the bottom of that and then stapled the shim back on. That way it keeps it off the bees, so there's a little bit of space right there between the sugar and the bees. This will sit directly on top of the top brood box, and it gives them access to sugar throughout the year if they run out of honey stores, or if they get in a position where they're away from their honey stores and can't break cluster. This should be right above the cluster for them for some emergency food. So we made these up. We drilled little 3/8 inch holes in all four sides for ventilation, and the bees can actually exit through here. This not only provides food for them, but it also is moisture control, because the sugar will absorb any moisture due to the temperature differences between the inside of the hive and the outside of the hive. If you don't have some kind of moisture control, you have the potential that moisture collects on your top cover and drips down on the bees, gets them wet, and that will kill them because they can't stay warm enough. So this will not only feed them, but that sugar will absorb the moisture, make it easier for the bees to eat and digest, and provide that a benefit as well. So when we make these up, we have that shim, so we have to keep that sugar from collapsing down in there. So what I did here is I cut some old pallets up to fit just inside that shim. It works pretty well. Set that right over top of the pallets, and that'll support the sugar while it dries. And also, I found to make it easier to get these boards off when they're done, just lay some wax paper over top of the pallet boards. That way it catches any sugar that you've got that falls apart, plus it peels right off the bottom, keeps you from making a big mess. So we set that on top of our wax paper and our spacer boards there. I also use some spacers to put in here for the sugar to go around to mold around, and the reason for this is it provides airflow space to allow air to come up through the hive and get up to the top, so ventilation for the hive. Plus it also allows, again, the bees to come up through here in the top and exit the top exit if they need to. So I pack these in, one in the front. Doesn't have to be anything real big, anything fancy. It's just old wood that I've cut up, and one by each hole. That way it blocks it for the holes. For our sugar, I usually do it in roughly 4-pound batches. Nothing's exact. I don't weigh it. It doesn't matter. So I've got some sugar in a bowl here. I got about a cup of water. We got some Honeybee Healthy and some white vinegar. So what I'll do is I'll mix up a cap full of white vinegar, cap full of Honeybee Healthy into the water here, and just add the water a little bit at a time. What you want to do is you want to mix it to the consistency of wet sand. You don't want it too wet. It will still work if you get it too wet. It just takes it longer to dry. Your goal is to get it just right that you can pack it in there and it doesn't take a very long time to dry. So we'll mix it in, get it the consistency of wet sand, pack it in there. I usually do this in 2 steps. I'll do 1 4-pound bowl, pack it in there. I'll put a pollen patty in the center. And the reason for the pollen patty is that by the time they eat through that bottom layer of sugar, they'll get to this pollen patty. It'll be about halfway through winter, and that's when they'll start slowly brooding back up again, and this just gives them an extra shot before anything starts blooming. There's some pollen and some protein to start raising young brood. So you don't want to put a pollen patty in there just off the bat. They really shouldn't be raising brood in early winter because that's just more bees they have to care for, more bees that have to eat the food and stuff. But coming out of winter, you want them to start brooding up so that they get ready for that spring flow. So we bury the pollen patty in the center, and then we put another layer of sugar over top of that to seal it in. So we'll go ahead and add. We've got our sugar here. We're going to take little bit of white vinegar. Just put a little capful in there, and this just keeps the sugar from going bad. You don't want to put too much in. Capful of that. Capful of Honeybee Healthy. Turn the top. And then we'll mix it all up. And what I've got in here right now is a cup of water. I won't use all of this for this, so I'll probably use maybe about a half a cup. And now it's time to get messy, because the only good way to do this is to mix it with your hands. So I'll add about half of that right now to the sugar. And we'll start mixing it all in. Be careful not to add too much too fast, because again, while it won't hurt anything and it will all work, it just takes it longer to dry. And as you're mixing it, you think, well, that's not going to be enough water to do it. Well, you hit that certain point where the water and the sugar absorbs all that water, and it gets to the point that you need it to. So, and then you can go quickly beyond that. Make sure you get all the way to the bottom of the bowl. Still not quite there. You want to be able to form a little ball whenever you take your hand right like that. But it doesn't, it's not going to take very much more. So just do a little bit more water there. And mix all that in good. Make sure you get all that sugar that's on the bottom mixed in, because you're going to have some sugar very bottom of the bowl. Mix all that up in there. And now you can see we've got it where it holds its shape when we press it like that. That's kind of about the consistency that you want it. You can pack it in there. That will dry and it'll form a hard, solid candy board. Hard rock right there. The other good thing about this is none of this goes to waste. If the bees don't eat it over the winter, you just take it, knock it out of the candy board, and melt it down for sugar syrup next spring. So don't be afraid to put these on. You're not wasting any sugar if they don't eat it, and it's just added insurance for them. Okay, so that's about the consistency we want it. Now we'll start packing it in here. You can see we've got our spacers around our holes there. You just start taking it, throw it in there, and packing it in. I make a good thin layer to start off with. It doesn't have to be even all the way around. It doesn't have to be consistent. You're just getting it down in there. And really with this first one, I'm just making sure I cover the middle, because I'm going to go ahead and put our pollen patty in next. Then we'll mix up another batch and put that other batch in. Pack it all the way around. You will lose some around the edges just a little bit. That's why you put the wax paper down. But it'll harden and you can reuse all that stuff. Okay, so we've got that first layer down, especially right there in the center. So we're going to go ahead and grab our pollen patty mix that we mixed up. Scoop out a little bit. Form this into a ball. And then just press it out into a thin patty form. Place it right there in the center. Then we'll go mix up another bowl of sugar, cover it up, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so we've got our second batch of sugar mixed up, so we'll go ahead and add that to our board here. Fill in the holes that we had at first here that we didn't have enough. Like I said, all measurements are not exact, just whatever works for you. And then we'll just dump the rest of this on here. Cover up that pollen patty, spread that out. Try to spread it out evenly, the best you can. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be exact. You'll see as the bees get up here and eat it, they're obviously going to eat wherever the cluster is first, which is usually in the center. And they'll eat what they need to as they go. The good thing about this is if they eat it all, you can go ahead and make sugar cakes and then just put more in and refill it as you need to throughout the winter. You can peek in on them on warmer days and just stick those sugar cakes in, which we make with silicone muffin cups, same way. Mix up the sugar, same recipe, let it sit in the silicone muffin cups, pop it out, and then we store a bunch of them throughout the winter. That way if we need to refill any of these, it's easy to do, it's quick and easy. So there we got it all good and packed in. I suggest doing this in some place where you don't mind making a little bit of a mess, because you will wind up with sugar everywhere inevitably. That's why I do it up here in the game room, and I can sweep it all up and clean it up later when I'm all done. I've got enough room up here to do about 70 of these at a time, so I'll do 7 of them. Let them sit for about a week, they'll harden up, and then I'll stack them off to the side and let them finish hardening until we go to put them on. Once you've got your sugar packed in here, you can pull out these spacers and set them aside to use in the next one. You don't have to keep these in here the whole time. As you pull them out, they'll pull the sugar away, so just pack that in there. If it's packed in, it'll dry good and hard. And there you go. We'll just let that sit aside. You can see from here, you can see the holes and what I was talking about. The bees will have access. This will sit on top. They can get up in here and eat the sugar if they want to. It allows for ventilation through those holes because it's placed right in front of all those holes. So it helps keep that moisture down, and any moisture that would collect on your inner cover is going to drip right here on the sugar. There'll be a little bit that drips through these holes, but most of it's going to be right here in the center, and for the most part your bees aren't around the edges anyhow, they're clustered in the center. So that helps keep the moisture off of them. Got your pollen patty in the middle. So we'll let these dry for about a week. We'll set them aside, make the next one, and then we'll go ahead and we'll stack these on the hives after Thanksgiving on a semi-warm day there around the beginning of December, and they should be good to go. So that's it. We'll just let it sit here and dry for a week. We'll stack it off to the side and let it finish drying the rest of the way to get a good hard consistency, and we'll put them on after Thanksgiving around the 1st of December. That way they've got some emergency feed if they need it, and it'll help with our moisture control in the hive. And we'll check on it periodically throughout the winter. But these are a cheap, easy solution. I've got to make some more of these for the hives because we had some more hives this year, so I'll go ahead and do a video a little bit later when I start making these to show exactly how I make them. But be sure, if you have any questions, leave any comments down below. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll do some more winter beekeeping prep tips here shortly. Thank you.